Welcome back on this glorious and challenging day. So we had 4 things to share with you guys regarding to what's the events that are happening in the world today. And when we get so overwhelmed with death, and I mentioned that I will share with you 7+1 events. So let's get straight into it. So the first one is the First World War that breaks out. The First World War that breaks out in July 28th, 1914. You have various historians about the amount of death, which is in most cases you have different opinions. I always go with the average, and you had about 26 million people that were killed in the First World War from 1914 to the end of 1918. That's 26. Just for some context, the continent, the country of Australia, is about today in 2023, 26. Imagine the whole entire continent, the whole entire country from Australia is wiped out, totally wiped out. If you thought that was bad, the second one was before, 10 months before the war was even over, you had the influenza epidemic, okay? That was as well called the Spanish flu. That lasted from February 1918 for about 2 years. Yet another 30 million that died with that epidemic. And you thought the world had some time to heal, but no. 2 years later, Stalin came to power, and then in the next who knows how many years, well, this is a huge discrepancy between the historians, between 9 million and 60 million. So I went with 35. Between 1922 and 1952, directly or indirectly killed 35 million. It's just mind-boggling, okay? And number 4, in the same time when that was going on, within Germany, in the Second World War, when you ask so many people how many people died in the Second World War, the number that just pops up right away is 6 million, 6 million, 6 million Jews. The number is actually 60 million, part of the 60 million. And the 60 million include all the people from all the armies, from all the forces, from the civilians and the soldiers. The total, again, the historians, and that one is about 58 to 62. I went with 60. And then you have later on in China, the dictator Mao Zedong from 1958 to 1962. I can't even say this number. Killed roughly 80 million. I forget how many of them went through famine, through the policies, through direct killing, but through the famine. That was unbelievable. And number 6 is the one that sticks very deeply in my heart, because I remember it like yesterday. It feels like a few months ago, 1994, in the country of Rwanda, which is right southwest of Uganda, just west of Lake Victoria in Africa, just above Central Africa, closer to the northern part of Africa. Within 3 months, it was such a short time, April 7th, I believe it began. Within 3 months, about 800,000 people were just wiped out. The world was quiet, relatively quiet. 800,000 in just 3 months. And number 7 is what we all saw recently in COVID, roughly 3 million. Just those numbers are also all over the place because we don't know how they counted it. Because many people, whatever, we won't get into the politics of it right now. What's the one I saved for the latest? Because that wasn't in the last 109 years. That actually happened roughly 670 years ago. In 1346, the bubonic plague that people also call the Black Death, which historians argue the number between 75 to 200 million. That's about 135. I took the middle ground. I took the middle number. But just even excluding what happened in the 1300s, just what happened the last 110 years. We have approximately 235 million, and I did not count the 20,000 here, the 5,000 here, the 7,000 here, not people that died through war and through dictatorships, which everyone wants this kind today in America. Everyone wants this beautiful, equal living, but this is what usually happens. Anyways, we won't get into that. Sorry for getting distracted. Now, if I take the average in the last 110 years, it comes out to over 2 million a year that die. Now, as the generation is going further and further, there's less and less wars, even though it feels like the world is getting out of control. So there's two types of pain. We're not here to desensitize you and say, oh, big deal, 15,000 people died. Well, you have the average is 2 million. We're still under the average. No. We're not here to desensitize anyone, not even one person. Not even one innocent person could die. Doesn't matter what age. But it's more about perspective, because so many people in the West and other countries live a beautiful life. And in our mind, we sort of have the expectation of this beautiful and perfect world. Besides, if you live in Chicago and every weekend there's another shooting going on, and so many innocent families and members of the families are being killed by their own people. Which is also okay because they're killing each other, so it's fine for some reason. But it's more about perspective. So the first message I give to people is this is absolute horrific. And as a child, I did not know this. So when someone died, it was the end of the world, not because they died, because the world is not meant to be this way. The world really is not meant to be this way. I am not talking about suck it up, this is reality. I'm just saying, sadly, this is reality. So once you take your eye off that one piece of the puzzle that's sitting on the table, and you get up on your chair, look at your dining room table, look at all 100 pieces, you go, wow, you have a different perspective on life, and it makes it easier to digest the news. It shouldn't be easier to say, oh, well, because we're not here to desensitize. We're here to look at the reality of life. And if you look at history, and I took the middle number, if you go to the higher number, it's over 250 million, which is devastating. I would love to hear your thoughts. How did you cope? What did you do in the last month or so to cope with this horrific news? How do you generally cope when you hear horrific stories of people hanging and burning? I think there's 7 countries, I didn't check it for many years, but there's 7 countries in the world, when I checked this up a few years ago, that actually kill, and I think even publicly, if any of their citizens are gay or lesbian. But also, that's also fine. And that's fine. No one's going to say anything about it because the media doesn't present it. Go look it up yourself. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe today it's 5, maybe it's 15. I hope it's 0. The last time I checked it up a few years ago, as I was doing research on that, it was 7 countries today that will hang or kill, even publicly, because you're gay or lesbian. I'm dying to know your thoughts. I'm so curious how you deal and you process with a world that is so out of control, not only now, but throughout history, with dictatorships, with wars. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your input, and I won't charge you for your comments. If you like this video, love your thumbs up. And always, please do remember, you are way greater than you think you are.